It's a tricky business, this pre-ordering lark. Many noisy and wise-seeming voices on the internet will tell you to steer clear of the whole thing altogether. But there are certain advantages to pre-ordering that some gamers find all too tempting. Maybe you just want to support your favorite developer, or maybe it's a psychological thing. The act of pre-ordering makes it feel like that far-off release you've been craving is that little bit closer. More likely, though, is that you've been drawn in by the promise of a cheeky freebie, a reward, if you will, for being one of the faithful. However, whether said reward comes in the form of some in-game content, a real-life shiny, or something else, such bonuses are far from certain to live up to your lofty expectations. Helpfully then, we've amassed 10 cautionary tales of pre-order bonus woe for you, so that the next time you're tempted to put some money down on the next big thing, you might just take a moment to consider if it's really worth it. I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are the 10 worst video game pre-order bonuses. Number 10. Codename Steam. Pre-order bonuses can often be region-specific, and the US pre-order bonus for 3DS turn-based oddity codename Steam was a pin badge that came from a collector's edition that was released over here in Europe. So far, so normal. The weird thing though is that collector's edition wasn't for codename Steam, instead being for the completely unrelated The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D. What? Codename Steam is a strategy game with third-person shooter elements that's set in a steampunk take on the city of London and stars Abraham Lincoln fighting back against a force of invading aliens. It's somewhat different in tone to Majora's Mask 3D, with the only real similarities between the two being that they're both on Nintendo 3DS, they both have graphics, and are both video games. Now, there's nothing wrong with the Majora's Mask pin, and it's a pretty nice collectible for Zelda fans. However, the fact it was an item from a collector's edition that was offered as a pre-order bonus for an entirely unrelated game just really makes it seem like they had a few boxes of them left over in a warehouse somewhere and wanted to get rid of them, thus forcing Zelda superfans who might have missed out first time to buy a game where you rescue Queen Victoria from the Wizard of Oz. No, I have no idea what's going on either. Number 9. Remember Me. The tragically ironic thing about 2013 Capcom-published action-adventure game Remember Me is that more or less everyone has forgotten about it. It was developed by Don't Nod Entertainment, and details the trials and tribulations of protagonist Nilin as she fights to regain her lost memories stolen from her by the sinister mega-corporation known as Memorize. While exploring the dystopian locations of Remember Me, Nilin will come up against plenty of corporate stooges upon which to unleash her devastatingly acrobatic combat prowess. The game allows players to get deeply involved with Nilin's moveset, customizing available combos in something called the Combo Lab, and then unleashing these player-created combos on hapless foes. That's where the pre-order bonus comes in, as customers who bought the game ahead of time from various vendors were given codes to access different melee attacks to put into their Combo Lab. The issue here is immediately evident. This is one of those annoying pre-order bonuses that just holds back content that could have been in the game for the sake of arbitrary perks to encourage people to put their money down early. It's a shame as well, because some of the bonus combo moves were based on attacks from the Street Fighter series. You know, a Capcom franchise that people actually do remember. Sorry, that sounded a bit harsh. I'm sure Remember Me does actually live on in the minds of those who bought the game but not early enough to access all of its content. Number 8. No Man's Sky. It may seem like a fleeting memory now, but No Man's Sky had quite the tumultuous launch. Lacking many of the features that overeager developers Hello Games had promised, this spacefaring adventure caused quite the stir when it was released back in 2016, and added weight to the argument of those campaigning against the idea of pre-ordering altogether. But amongst all the hubbub about how disappointing the actual game was, it was easy to miss the problems with the title's pre-order bonus. Early adopters of No Man's Sky who pre-ordered from certain outlets were treated to a hyperdrive-equipped ship, giving them a bit of a boost, no pun intended, at the start of their adventure. The only trouble was, part of the tutorial for No Man's Sky was to build a hyperdrive, and with the pre-order ship already having a hyperdrive installed, it meant that those who downloaded the content could not complete the tutorial, as the hyperdrive blueprint registered that they already knew how to make one. This, therefore, locked owners of the bonus ship out of creating better ships with hyperdrives, and meant they missed out on other information later in the tutorial. Luckily, the problem was patched fairly quickly, but represents an interstellar oversight by a developer who already had a heck of a lot on its space plate. Number 7. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. You're gonna like this pre-order bonus, it's very nice. I probably should have made that joke later in the entry because it doesn't really make sense at the moment. The Pokemon games have been known for having pretty decent pre-order bonuses in the past. Throughout the DS and 3DS era, early adopters of the mainline Pokemon games could be fairly confident of getting a nifty figure with their pre-ordered Pocket Monster title. Things got a bit more complicated in the Switch era though, as multiple retailers offered multiple different bonuses. Some Pokemon Scarlet and Violet pre-orders did indeed receive a lovely figure of the 3 starter Pokemon hanging out around a tree stump, while those who pre-ordered from Best Buy and certain online retailers in different regions got berries, and not even real ones they could pop in their mouths. Not only is a pack of in-game berries a bit of a kick in the teeth when those who pre-ordered elsewhere are adding to their Pocket Monster figure collection, but it's also pretty much useless, as the berries offered in the pack could easily be collected in-game in about the time it took to input the pre-order code. It must have felt like quite the pokey snub, but at least that berry pun at the start of the entry makes more sense now. I told you it would. Number 6. Sonic Lost World. Sonic Lost World was another attempt at revitalizing the famous Hedgehog's 3D gaming career, but for the most part it was seen as another misstep for the speedy mascot. The thing about Sonic games though is that they're always going to sell, and many of those who blindly pre-ordered this particular Hedgehog-based adventure were treated to 25 extra lives to help Sonic get through the strange sky realm known as Lost Hex. It's an interesting choice that may have turned off more potential customers than it won over, with casual gamers possibly taking it as a sign the game was going to be too tough for them, and more experienced Sonic fans rightly assuming that they wouldn't need the extra lives and viewing the pre-order bonus as a waste of time or even a detriment to the challenge. Whichever way you want to look at it though, I'm sure we can all agree that it's definitely cheating. It's funny really, in Sonic's 16-bit heyday, young Mega Drive owners would likely have jumped to the chance to receive extra lives to help them get through those tricky areas of the 2D games in an era before save slots were commonplace. But was it a good idea for Sonic Lost World in 2013? Oh, not on your life, your 25 additional lives. Number 5. Fallout New Vegas. Like the hyperdrive-equipped ship in No Man's Sky, our next pre-order bonus is an example of one that's a nice idea in theory, but had some problems in implementation, which is surprising really, because the Fallout series is so well known for being completely stable and bug-free at launch. Sorry, just flexing the old sarcasm muscles there, you gotta stay in shape in this line of work. Fallout New Vegas, Obsidian's take on Bethesda's take on Interplay's take on post-apocalyptic RPGs, gave pre-ordering players the option to add a weathered 10mm pistol to their early game arsenal. The weathered 10mm pistol packs a bit of an extra punch that the standard 10mm doesn't have, due to it being weathered, I guess. Maybe it's picked up some experience over the years. You might be wondering what's so bad about this pre-order bonus then. Well, players who enjoyed tinkering with their weapons would soon discover a bit of an issue. Until the effect was patched out, if players tried to modify the weathered 10mm pistol in-game, the weapon would display as a giant error symbol, and I don't know about you, but I think this is a bit of an immersion breaker, but hey, maybe I'm just being fussy. Number 4. Apollo Justice Ace Attorney. We don't have an issue with a keychain as a pre-order bonus. Sometimes they can be pretty cool, and are an inoffensive little extra freebie you can attach to your keys, throw in a drawer, or lose down the back of the sofa depending on your preference. Courtroom drama enthusiasts who pre-ordered Capcom's Apollo Justice Ace Attorney from certain retailers, however, were treated to the most low-effort keychain that ever sneaked through quality control. I mean, you can kind of see what it's supposed to be if you've already been primed as to what game it's actually from, but to the uninitiated, this just resembles an amorphous blob far more closely than it resembles a bloke pointing his finger indignantly. Our first guess when presented with this particular piece of evidence might be that it's a somewhat inaccurate representation of the liquid metal slime from the Dragon Quest series, or maybe a half-assed attempt at recreating the shape of the state of Florida. Either way, it doesn't meet our high standards of gaming pre-order bonus keychains. I mean, it's certainly no Catherine full-body pre-order bonus sheep keychain anyway. That one is cool, adorable, and get this, you can totally tell what it is. Now that's always a bonus. Number 3. Zero Time Dilemma. The third game in the Zero Escape series, Zero Time Dilemma, puts players in control of characters who have been kidnapped by a masked malcontent known as Zero and must navigate escape room-style puzzles and difficult moral quandaries in order to make it out intact. It was originally released on the 3DS and PlayStation Vita in 2016, and certain versions came with a pre-order bonus watch, just like the ones worn by the characters in the game. Alas though, thanks to some shipping woes, these watches didn't make it out in time, no pun intended, for the game's release, which is, one of the main things you need to get right for a pre-order bonus, let's be honest. Also, once people finally started receiving the watches, they found that they were of low quality, were too heavy and clunky to wear, and in some cases were broken upon arrival. Worst of all though, for strange business reasons far beyond our mortal ken, Amazon decided the best way to distribute the watch was to list it at $500 and then send pre-order customers a $500 promotional voucher to use to purchase it. Now this baffling setup was strange enough, I don't know why they had to do it that way, but when you also consider the fact that certain customers were hit with extra taxes, it was decidedly unwelcome. Let's just say that none of us need a tacky watch to know that this was a bad time for all involved. Number 2. Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. In Square Enix's Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, players take on the role of a futuristic agent in a dystopian world filled with corporate intrigue and body modification. These modifications are known as augmentations, and Deus Ex enthusiasts were asked to augment their pre-order before the game's release. This pre-order augmentation took the form of a complex tiered system where befuddled customers were asked to pick their bonuses from a number of options and then encourage their pals to select different bonuses so that the total pre-order goals could be met and everyone gets to choose an extra pre-order bonus, and the ultimate pre-order bonus is unlocked, which is the game releasing 4 days early. What? Inherent issues with an early release being a pre-order bonus aside, this whole thing was just a little bit too fiddly and convoluted for most people to bother with, and Square Enix received an augmented level of kickback as a result. In fact, they decided to relent and give everyone who pre-ordered the game all of the bonuses as an apology, apparently surprised by the fact that the gaming public reacted with a firm and unanimous, "I never asked for this." Sorry, that reference is mandatory for any YouTube video discussing the modern Deus Ex games. And number 1, Fallout 76. There's a lot of competition for the worst pre-order debacle ever, but we think Fallout 76 might just have it in the bag. Some of you already know what I'm talking about. Another game with a somewhat tumultuous launch even before you include the pre-order woes, Fallout 76 is Bethesda's attempt at a Fallout MMO, and allows players to head out into an initially rather barren and directionless open world in an attempt to survive and prosper in a post-apocalyptic environment. Though not strictly a pre-order bonus, technically you could also get it as part of a non-pre-ordered collector's edition, but it was still pushed as a pre-order bonus in the marketing and is generally regarded as one by the online community, a lovely canvas bag for carrying your real-life wasteland supplies was, among other things, part of the pre-order deal. Infamously, the bag was advertised as a rather snazzy and hardy-looking affair, but when the game was released, it had been replaced by a cheap nylon bag that wouldn't last 5 minutes in the irradiated wilds. Bethesda, though, were unwilling to let their customers down in the long run, and did eventually get the promised canvas bag out to everyone they could about 6 months after launch, including customers who'd long since refunded or traded in the game due to its early issues, which is nice, I suppose. So, a success story in the end, then? I don't know, people still haven't forgotten about this debacle, so I'd say it's more of a mixed bag.